Hi, Emily. Welcome to the podcast, or welcome back to the podcast. Ian, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
I don't think we've really properly covered in detail is flips and selling properties for profit. And I'm going to do my best to pull my weight in this episode, but I know it's something of a specialist subject for you. So you are the ideal person to jump on this episode and talk, because apart from anything, I know you've got one live at the moment, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, flipping has always been an absolutely intrinsic part of the strategy that we decided early out. Now, we didn't know it was necessarily going to be that way, but I think as we got into it, especially because we were looking at the BRR strategy, so buy and refurbish, rent and refinance, flipping does go hand in hand with that strategy. So yeah, it turned out to be something that we realized that we would always want to have a flip on the go. I think that's kind of basically how we sat that out.
That's what really interests me, because I guess I've in a sense done a couple of accidental flips, but flips as a strategy, why does that make so much sense to you, and why do you think it does go so well hand in hand with more of an income generating strategy?
Sure. So, I mean, our first flip, I didn't want to be a flip. So, so some people will be in the same strategy that they're going to go, I'm going to do BRRs, buy to lets. And we got this property, and I had looked at other strategies with it. And ultimately, it was my husband that said to me, I think we should sell this one. And for something in me just didn't want to let it go. I thought this is a great cash flow. I didn't want to see it go. But when we zoomed out on what we were doing, we realized that if you are, I mean, particularly in this market, money in, money out deals are unicorn. They can still exist. I will put that out there. We still find them, but they're hard. They're not easy, particularly as you're trying to get into it. So generally, when you start out, let's face it, you'll probably overspend slightly on your first refurb. There'll probably be something unaccounted for. So you end up needing to have some cash in the background to be able to either leave in that property, and I always say if you could be buying properties for, 5K each, you just absolutely would. So we looked at that of going, okay, if we constantly maintain a flip that is, let's say at minimum, giving us £20,000, that's how we started out. That's what we looked at. As we have those pockets of money, that's the money we get to then use to leave into our buy-to-lets. That is the funding bits, because we've always used angel investors to buy the property, but I like to keep it very clear cut. I wanted to pay back my investors and not have that, because some people use angel investors to kind of fund their long-term left-in money. And the way my brain worked was get the deal done, pay them back, or move them on to the next deal and kind of draw a line in the sand. So that cash strategy, it gives you options. It's good to have that pot.
Yeah, there's like two sides to it then, isn't there? Like, I don't think anybody's going to need much convincing that doing a property deal where you can net 20 grand in your back pocket is an attractive thing. And if you've got goals or things on your vision board that require injections of cash as opposed to an income stream, then that kind of goes without saying. But from a strategy point of view, I guess you're seeing it almost like a tool in a way, that it allows you to scale your income generating portfolio, because you're not then locked into a situation where either your cash or Angel's cash is locked into a deal, and you've got to wait for that to come back around. You can do a flip, effectively replace one with the other, release that Angel's cash to go on to another deal, and allow you to continue to scale. If your goals are around income generation and changing your circumstances, then flip will indirectly help with that, but they're not a recurring income stream. That's something you're going to have to rinse and repeat and active. But if you're looking for cash injection, then
it is an active strategy. And that was one of the things that I guess when I looked at that original deal that we turned into a flip, the thing that was sitting with me was that's just going to be one more deal further away from that financial freedom figure that I wanted to hit. And it means that once this project's done, I would be continuously doing it. I'd have to go find another flip. So that was a negative mindset part there. And just rather than looking at it going, what is that cash going to do for my investment business right now?
Yeah.
How is that? And actually, by the time that we kind of got onto, I think, our second or third flip, I ended up not being very well at all in pregnancy.
Yeah.
And actually having that cash reserve that then I basically went from 4 very ill months straight into COVID. That actually, had we not had some of those cash injections, it could have been a slightly more difficult time. So having that flip there, having that money that is coming down the pipeline as well, it allows you to plan these things out a little bit more. But I had a coaching client the other day that was looking at their wedding, and they'd been looking at going, how on earth it's going to take so many buy-to-lets to save up for that wedding with cash flow. And I was like, guys, that's one flip.
Yeah, exactly.
Do the flip, pay the wedding, and then crack on with your buy-to-lets for your financial freedom figure.
So what would you say is the key to a successful flip then? So in your experience, the ones that you've done, what's been the key to the best ones that you've done?
So obviously it is a case of you've got to buy at the right price. And we say that for every strategy. You make your money when you buy. So, that's nothing new. None of this is new, really. It's just looking at the other strategies. So you have to buy at the right price. And you're only going to know the right price from your comparables. Be safe. Don't go for hope value.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't go, well, if I put a really nice kitchen in, maybe I'll get 10 extra grand. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But the main thing, and this comes into this market right now where things are slowing down, where interest rates are, because all of those things affect home buyers. So their affordability is a little less. However, demand.
Yeah.
If you buy the right house in the right street, we always talk about buying the worst house on the best street. Yeah. If that area's had consistently high demand, that is the fundamental thing for a flip.
Yeah. Because that will be a concern for many people, won't it? Whether flips work in any market, any conditions, and with the talk in the media and the likelihood, to be fair, that we are going to see a downturn in property prices, is this a good time to be doing flips? But what you're basically saying is that demand not overrides that, but that's the number one criteria in a successful flip, because at the end of the day we've still got a housing crisis, right? People still need places to live.
Yeah, people relocate for jobs. People downsize. Now that's another point there, that if you are going for the top of the market flips, it gets a little trickier. If you are aiming for average homes for average people, which generally is the strategy that I will always kind of look to, then you're going to have a little bit more security that it's affordable. So all you need to do is even look at what the average income is for a family or a person in the UK, and look at what the mortgage stress rates are, and it will absolutely tell you what the average price is for a house in the UK on an affordability level. Yeah, you can absolutely do flips in a downwards market. It's just finding the right thing.
How important is, you've kind of touched on it, but how important is speed? Do you do things like, when you forecast what you're going to be selling the property for, do you build in like a buyer's premium? Do you think, well, actually, I'm not going to hold out for an extra 500 quid if it means waiting for 6 weeks. I'm going to take that offer because really this is about turning it around as quickly as possible.
I guess so. Obviously, there's a difference between Scotland and England. Okay, and from a flip point of view, I do prefer the Scottish market because it's just a little bit more certainty. So we have home reports in Scotland, so you know what the home report is, and that will guide what the mortgage company, the valuation, is going to be. They don't tend to necessarily send out a valuer in Scotland for a mortgage if they look at the home report. So with that in mind, I've always done my best to try and get that home report value as high as sensible. And quite often I would work with my estate agent in that case saying, look, this is my bottom number. I need that, but any more than that is a nice to have. Yeah. And it comes, if you launched it and you have 20 people viewing and 20 offers, then of course you use them to negotiate against each other, and it's got the closing dates and all that kind of nonsense. But if you don't get as much interest as you have, but someone comes in, offers that number, is secure, I would rather just take that number and move on. Even if, had I waited a month, I could have maybe got £5,000 more. It might not be worth it. So there's a point where don't get too greedy. Trust the numbers that you've got. Know where your checkout number is. You want to make a profit, but at the end of the day, you need to wash your face, and there's no point jeopardizing what could be a potentially good offer.
So what's the deal with the 6-month roll and flips? Can you do a relatively light refurb or a refurb that takes a handful of weeks and flip a property within 6 months? What's the story with that?
The 6-month rule. Some mortgage lenders are a bit more flexible about that. Some are absolutely strict. So if you go to market within 6 months, you might, and you want to get it sold within 6 months, you might not be opening yourself up to every possible buyer.
The pool of buyers, yeah.
So if I had to work to an ideal time frame, and it doesn't always work to an ideal time frame, but I would want to get that property on the market in month 5.
Yeah.
If your intention is to flip it to a cash buyer, it's irrelevant, that 6-month rule. Yeah. So I know some people that are flipping HMOs that will take them to market. They know they've got international buyers, cash buyers waiting for it. So as soon as they get the keys, it's in their interest to get that turned around and get it sold on to those buyers, tenanted and sold on to those buyers as quickly as possible. Yeah. So depending on your strategy, what you're flipping it as and who you're trying to sell it to, it plays a difference. But for your average flip to a family who are buying off a mortgage, just bear in mind that you don't want to add in any complexity that's going to put someone off down the line. Yeah,
absolutely. So I guess one of the things that has always made me slightly nervous has been around budget management. So if you haven't got strategies in place to make sure that build comes in on budget, then that's going to be ultimately is going to be eroding away your profit at the end of it. So have you got, what's your thoughts on that? And have you got any tips for people on that front?
So the challenge is if it's your first property, you don't always know everything you need to know. Heck, you're still learning when it's your 12th property, 20th property. So it is practice. So I would say as well, it depends how you're managing it. If it is your first property and you're looking for a flip, then I really do recommend getting a survey. Getting a good survey in, whether that's when in Scotland you've got your home report, that's great, that helps. But it's just going to give you a little bit more faith that you've not missed anything, because that is always the biggest thing. The roofs, have you got a good viewing checklist that you've double checked? Are the windows double glazed? All of these kind of things. Yeah. If you are going to self-manage or manage individual trades, knowing this is where time delays come in. Generally, because you need to know what everyone's role is, when they need to be there, communication, and it's all ask questions. And it's always a question, is there anything holding you up, or can you go in and get that job done? Yeah. And he'll say, well, actually, I do need you to get that guy to fix the roof, or whatever it is, The things you do need to be aware of are just the other costs. So staging, putting furniture in a flip.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about staging. Yeah, I was going to, because I think not to take it off on a tangent, but obviously, as you know, my main strategy is serviced accommodation, and I guess in a sense we're constantly selling. We're not selling the property, but selling the opportunity for people to stay in the property. So staging and photography is kind of a no-brainer. But I find more and more that's filtering in now into flips, and but equally there will be plenty of investors out there who slightly turn their nose up at that, and maybe they get a bit blasé about the market and what have you. So presumably you have your flip staged. What's your
every single time?
Yeah.
So before we even got into property, we had a flat we were selling, and it was a lovely flat. And we painted it all white, put some grey carpets down, as you do, and got some pictures and put it on the market. And we didn't get a lot of interest, even though it was prime flat in Edinburgh. And the flat downstairs, exactly the same, nice artwork on the walls, sofas. It sold. Yeah. And actually sold for more than ours did in the end. Yeah. And it was because people couldn't imagine the space. They didn't realize how big this flat was. Yeah. How it looked as a family and living room and all that kind of stuff. So there was this bit of us going, oh, it does just look better. Theirs looks better. But when I go in and there's furniture and it looks like a home, I start going, oh, that's really nice. I mean, we don't like that sofa, but you could put some, you start seeing things. And I'd say there's obviously a lot of people the same. So we did an assisted sale, and we needed to ensure we got the top price because our margins were less. We weren't working with 20,000. We were working with about 15. And we thought, right, we need to make sure that this absolutely sells to the best it possibly can. In Scotland, obviously, we have the surveyor comes out as the home report, and he had seen the flat. He'd done a home report in the flat before the refurb, and I think he'd valued it about 65.
Okay.
And it was only I think it was 11k refurb, somewhere around there. The furniture looked really classy for what you would have expected. And the surveyor came back in and he went, wow, this place is amazing. Like, they can see past the furniture, but he was also led by how great this property is.
Everyone's human at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And he came in and he was like, oh, this is really good. You've done an amazing job here, which is obviously great feedback from a surveyor when they're trying to, keep a straight face. And he valued it 5k more than any of us were expecting. And 5k, that's another 5k in our pocket, should we get it. And even he was surprised that he valued it at that in some aspects. So he was just like, oh, it's even better than I thought it could be.
It was an investment. I think that's the difference, isn't it? Like, people may be falling into the mistake of thinking it's like a fixed cost, when really it's an investment that you can, in the right circumstances, expect to see a return from. I guess it's getting a balance, because on the flip side, excuse the pun, we know that you probably don't want to be too controversial with your decorating style and things like that, so you don't alienate people. Sure. You want to keep it reasonably neutral, but like what you're saying is, through the staging, and I know the same with serviced accommodation, is you're trying to coax people's imagination, help them along that journey of imagining themselves in the property, how they would use the space, etc. Yeah. So it's getting that balance right, isn't it, I think? And
there'll be people who are in situations where yes, sometimes they can't be bothered with the hassle of selling a home. It's not always about money. Sometimes it's the fear, sometimes it's the hassle, and they don't have the money to maybe do up their own house or to put in that bit of cash injection, because it's going to be a competitive market. They can't put it on the market with stained carpets. They're going to have to replace the carpets. So being able to partner with someone to come in, essentially flip that property. You have, obviously there's contracts in place and there's a lot of detail behind the scenes. It's a solution. So let's say you could offer them this, but it's not going to be it's not enough for them. If you could get rid of your cost of money, if you could get rid of your stamp duty, because you're not buying it, sometimes that is enough to make a deal work. Yeah. And so if you can look at those costs, take them out of it, go into a contract with the owner and say, well, I can get this turned around. I would say it's best they're out the property, because it takes away a level of risk. You want to control the whole circumstance. They can move out the property, they can go rent, you could help them find somewhere to rent, because it's all solutions. And basically you get to the point where, you do up that property, you can get it on the market as quickly as you can get those elements done. Get the photos in, get it on the market. They get what they need. You've solved their problem. You get to make a little bit of profit now. So presumably in that strategy, then the owner receives a pre-agreed price, and do you get all of the uplift, or do you potentially negotiate where they get a percentage of that, or anything? Anything can happen. So you could say, well, if this sells for, let's say, 150,000, then I'll take the profit up to that point. If it sells for any more, we can go 50-50. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Emily. That's been really useful to get your insight. And it would be also useful to check in with you, hopefully in not too far in the future, to see how your current flip has performed. Absolutely. I'm not going to ask you to tempt fate now, as I know it's just gone on the market. But we'll see how it goes. And I keep everything up to date on my socials as well, though. So if you're wanting to get a sneaky peek, you can go and have a look there. Great stuff. Well, thank you so much for that, Emily. Take care. Have a good day. Perfect. Thanks, Mark. See you soon. Take care. Bye.